In this video, we're going to talk about a basic theory concept. We're going to talk about how to measure distances on the piano. And we'll start with whole steps and half steps. A half step is our smallest unit of measure. And a half step is when you go from one note to another neighbor note. And we need to be able to measure half steps so that we can then measure bigger distances as well. Just like you can't really measure a mile or a foot without measuring inches first. We could give you a piece of string that's 1 foot long, but then let's say you want to measure 1 foot and 3 inches. Then your piece of string does not work anymore. So this is a half step. From B to C is one half step. We're going a half step up the piano. And if I go from B to B flat, I'm going a half step down the piano. So white or black doesn't matter. In fact, this is not a half step because there's a black note in between. So a half step up from C is going to be C sharp. While if we start on B, a half step up from B is going to be C because there's no black note in between here. Same thing in between E and F. There's no black note here, so this is a half step. Okay. Another example of a half step starting on a black note this time. Here's A flat or G sharp. This is G sharp, and I'm going to go up a half step to A, or I'm going to go down a half step from G sharp to G. So there's everything you need to know about half steps. Whole steps are the next smallest, and whole steps are equivalent to 2 half steps. So do you see how I'm building off the half steps? Everything else is going to build off half steps and whole steps from now on. So we have a whole step is going to be this distance. Notice now I'm skipping one black note. So a whole step, there's 2 ways to look at it. You can think a whole step skips a note. So from B to C sharp, this is a whole step, and this is the note we skipped. From A flat to B flat, this is a whole step, so we skipped A. Another way to look at whole steps is that it's 2 half steps. So we'll count this as 0, because this is our 0 inch on the ruler. 0, 1, 2. So 2 half steps. I'm going to count up 2 half steps again from C sharp. 0, my first half step, and my second half step. And this is equal to a whole step. C sharp to E flat. Notice that I'm still skipping one note. So if you want to check your whole steps, go from G, try the next note that you think is a whole step, and check to make sure that there's a note black or white in between it. So G to A is a whole step. A flat to B flat is a whole step because A is in between. E to F sharp is a whole step because there's a half step right here. So I'm going to give you a few quizzes, and I want you to tell the answer to yourself. So tell me if this is a half step or a whole step. I'll give you 3 seconds. From B flat to B, this is a half step. What about this distance right here? Is this a whole step or a half step? 2, 3. This is a whole step because we have one black note in between it. And the last quiz, let's start with this one. Okay, is this a whole step or a half step? And this is going to be a whole step because we have F right there. So keep practicing those, quiz yourself, and just watch out because we can't rely on the pattern of white or black. Don't try and look at piano as white and black. You can't measure distances on piano that way. You have to count up each note. Each note is equal, and the black notes, we just can't ignore them. The white notes, we can't ignore them. We all have to count each one. So when I'm counting up half steps, let's say I want to go up to here, I count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Notice I counted each note, black and white. And so C to G is 7 half steps.